All right, welcome to The Right Hook. I'm your host, Steve Hook. Wonderful to have you with us once again today. We remind you we do this show every Wednesday and Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. What a day it's been today thus far, man, huh? It was a week ago today that President Trump called it American Liberation Day, and he announced tariffs, and everybody went nuts, and the markets went nuts. The markets cratered, and everybody since that time has been saying, well, Trump is acting like a buffoon. He's an economic illiterate, blah, blah, blah. Peter Navarro and Elon Musk were going back and forth on social media, even though they're on the same economics team as Trump. And then today, Trump pulls the trigger back on the tariffs. He announces a 10% tariff across the board to all nations except for China. Now, you recall, China uh, did not decide to negotiate with Trump. So Trump said, okay, well, starting at midnight tonight, your tariffs go up to 104%. Then they still wouldn't cave. So Trump said today, everybody gets a 10% tariff across the board. And China, now you're going to get stuck with 125% tariff. And now the markets are going absolutely bananas in a good way. All of those losses have basically been regained, and the optimism is palpable throughout Wall Street and the markets worldwide, and they are reacting. So, with that in mind, I am thrilled to announce my guest today. We're really pumped to have Brannon Howse. Brannon is the author of over 16 books. He's a national voice on worldviews shaping the world, 30 plus years of broadcasting experience. He's got some great documentaries to his credit as well, including Brainwashed, America, Siege, and Sabotage. He's watched by millions. He started the website Worldview Weekend in 1993, and he's going to join us now. Brannon is a trailblazer, radio, TV, digital media, and I am thrilled to have you on the show. Brannon Howse, hello, sir. How are you today?
Great to be with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, we're thrilled to have you. And I got to tell you, Brannon, before we got started today, this show was going to go in a different direction. And then around 1:30 this afternoon, Trump plays his master stroke, really. I mean, and says, okay, here's what we're going to do. And all of a sudden, the markets are just taking off. China is taking it in the chin. They have been boxed completely in or completely out, I suppose, depending upon how you want to look at it. And like I said, the markets are responding. I want you to hear this clip real quick, Brandon, then you and I can come back and discuss it. This is President Trump speaking last night. And boy, this turned out to be pretty prophetic. Annie, if you could go with cut 3.
I think we're going to do much better than that this time, because this time I'm doing what I want to do with respect to the tariffs. I think we're going to do much better. And just remember the numbers. When you get up to $2 billion a day, $2 billion a day, they're saying, sir, can't be that, can it? I said, yeah, it can. It's the biggest transaction ever made. This is bigger than any deal. You guys, some of you work for companies. Your companies are peanuts. I don't care how big they are. This is the largest transaction in the history of our country. And don't let some of these politicians go around saying, because I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate. Congress takes over negotiating. Sell America fast, because you're going to go busted. You don't. I just saw it today. A couple of your congressmen said, I think we should get involved in the negotiation of the tariffs. Oh, that's what I need. I need some guy telling me how to negotiate.
Now, that, of course, was last night. And what has happened in the 24 hours since all of this transpired is countries, and this is, and Brandon, tell me if you've kind of seen this too. I'm seeing people, some of the network talking heads, even some of the, financial analysts are saying, well, Trump caved because the pressure was getting too big. Well, okay, maybe he caved, but 75 nations are begging for a meeting in the Oval Office to renegotiate long, unfair trade policies with the United States. I'd say they caved.
Yeah.
What's your take?
I would say, exactly what you're saying. he wasn't bluffing. He was willing to do it, and he started doing it. And then he got the response he did. He's like, okay, we'll pause. And now you guys realize I'm serious. I'm not just talking about it. I'm doing it, and I'm really going to do it even more. And of course, China's finding out the hard way, are they not?
Yeah, they
Because
really
what are we
are.
doing? 125% tariff on them right now?
125%. And of course, the usual suspects are carping that. Well, that's going to affect That's going to affect the U.S. consumer. Meantime, the markets are. This is the largest rally that we've seen in 5 years.
I just
Which
got
is
a friend that texted me a while ago. He said, I'm up $75,000 today.
yeah,
I don't know if he went in and bought. I haven't had a chance to communicate. I don't know if he went in and bought. What did he do? Did he go buy on the dip, Logan? Must have gone in and bought on the dip, because now he's saying he's up 75,000. He was up 50, and about an hour later, he said, I know I'm up 75. So I think, you do know that President Trump, what, about 3 hours before he made his announcement, he told everybody, you might want to go buy stock.
yeah.
You know,
He said that this morning. In fact,
buy
on Truth.
buy low, sell high. I said to Logan, how's that not insider trading? He just let us all know that something's about to happen. So anyway, so those who went and bought deals, some of them are really making a lot of money today. I think Trump was in the Oval Office telling Charles Schwab made how much today, Logan? $2 billion. He's like Charles Schwab isn't just a company; it's an actual person. And he's pointing at him in the Oval Office. He made $2 billion today.
Wow. And the thing is we thought, the rich get richer, the rich get richer. But here's the thing, Brandon, with all of these deals that Trump is, and Scott Bessent, you can't say enough about him. This guy, he kind of talks in a stuttered, halted way, but everything he says makes sense. And what they have done is they've got all of these different nations coming to begging for this meeting, as I mentioned. They're going to renegotiate, but in the meantime, they're pouring money into the U.S. in the form of new factories and energy sector is going to just go completely. It's going to blow up. What do you think? Aren't we all going to be winners in this at the end, except for maybe China?
No, I think we had no choice. We are a debtor nation. We're a debt-based economy. We had no choice but to try to cut our costs with Doge and increase our revenue. I mean, this is a businessman coming in to a troubled company. We'll call it United States of America. And any businessman knows when he takes over, he's got to look at what's our debt, what's our cash flow, what's our obligations, and how do we cut debt, and how do we increase cash flow? How do we increase income? And I think that's what he's doing. It's just basic business. I think Delio, the investor Delio, the guy that somebody listened to and watch. I don't know if I agree with everything he says, but he's saying that don't be distracted by all of this, regardless of what you think about it.
Right.
We're in big trouble as a nation when it comes to our debt. I got some notes off here to the side I've been taking the last week or so. We added like $11 trillion in debt in the last 5 to 6 years. 11 trillion. Our interest on the debt we're taking every year is 1.3 trillion. So we're in this debt loop, and the question is, who wants to take this debt? Who wants to keep buying it? And do the American people want to keep putting their money into bonds with low interest rates?
Yeah.
They've got to figure out how to get a better return. And of course, Trump is wanting to lower interest rates because he doesn't want to keep refinancing our debt, which he's got like $9 trillion coming up that's going to have to be, I think, refinanced. And he's thinking, if we could do this at a lower interest rate, look at what it'll save us. So again, he's just simply doing the basic math of a businessman trying to get this ship righted and then figure out where we go from here. But again, the whole thing comes back to what we talked about on radio today with Patrick Wood. And that is, I know Klaus Schwab's resigning. He's saying I'm out of here. But don't forget the World Economic Forum still goes. And they're saying by 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And the question is, are they looking at some point going where they digitize and where they tokenize? Now, President Trump has said, look, I'm signing executive orders against a central bank digital currency. He's not doing for that. But will we go to some alternative to the Fed and their Fed Now wallets that they were all laying out under Biden?
Sure.
and go to some kind of crypto, some kind of currency as an alternative. And what are we going to back it with? Is it going to be backed by gold? We're supposed to be, I guess, in May, finding out about how much gold's in Fort Knox. Is it there? And then resetting it, which I think hasn't happened in several decades now, since the 70s. And I think it's at like $42 and some odd cents they locked it in at. So if we reevaluate it at the current price around $2,900, $3,000, it's really fluctuated this week. It's gone all the way up to
Sure, this week has
31
made
something.
gold go through the roof.
Yeah, back down now around 2,900 something. But if they just reevaluate from $42 and some odd cents, I think is what it was in the 70s, where they locked it in, to let's say 3,000 an ounce, that's going to again give him more to put on the books. As we put this kind of these hard assets on the books, what else can they add to the hard assets column to back some kind of cryptocurrency or currency that people can choose as a U.S. dollar type? Because there's going to have to be something done here. Is it going to be land? Is it, going back 15 plus years ago, I have radio shows in our archives where I was talking about the idea of how do you deal with a fiat currency that's lost its value? It's not backed by anything but consumer confidence and really black gold, oil, since Nixon closed the gold window and cut a deal with Saudi Arabia. And the only thing I could come up with 15 years ago, and you can hear in the archive of that radio show, was what if we backed our currency with land? Is that why our federal government's taking up so much land from the states? Now you add in gold. But will they at some point take the assets in America, particularly if you have a loan on it, and take your house and put your house on a ledger sheet? So the house, someone's got that deed. It goes from the bank or whatever institution now takes these, and then you have the liquidity in your house that you can borrow from in this digital system. But the house itself goes on the ledger sheet as a tokenization as part of this new system.
Yeah.
So the question is, what will this new system be? That's what I want to know.
That's what I want to know too. And one thing I would say, Brandon, is and this is a thing that I think a lot of people kind of overlooked with President Trump and his negotiating tactics. The United States is the single largest marketplace on the planet. It's not even close. We don't have the biggest population, but as far as our GDP and potential for growth, no country can touch us. You just mentioned black gold. We've got more LNG and black gold than any nation on the planet, including Saudi Arabia. Maybe what Trump is doing is resetting the table from a trade perspective. And we also know that he has kind of tipped his hat to Bitcoin and digital currency and but not saying we're going to go that way, but saying that, hey, I don't have a problem with Bitcoin if it can be a fair market, free and fair, openly traded. Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. So what do you think? Do you think the long-term goal of Trump, especially with regards to these tariffs and boxing China in the way he has done, is this just the setup before the big unveiling of some completely new economic system comes out?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because, he did say, he's talked about, before he was elected this second time, he gave a speech and we played the clip talking about, prior to 1913, we didn't have this federal income tax, right? And of course, we know we have the creation of the Federal Reserve 1913, and then we get a federal income tax shortly after that. And it was supposed to be like 1% on the super wealthy, and now we know what's really happened. So he's talked about getting rid of it, going to from internal revenue service to an external revenue service that collects the tariffs. So are we going to go that route? Can we get there? Or, as Scott Bassett said a couple weeks ago, President Trump's goal is that if you make under $150,000, you don't pay taxes. Anyone making $150,000 and under will not pay taxes. So what is this new system that he's looking to put in? Clearly, he's hinting at some kind of new system. But now he's talking to Zelensky in Ukraine and telling them, we want some of these mineral rights, right? And Zelensky's dragging his feet on this and supposedly signed a deal with somebody else behind our back, and then comes over to the White House and all the paperwork's laid out, I think, in the East Room, ready to go. And he won't sign it. He acts like the moron he did in the Oval Office, and it all falls apart. But apparently he had already signed a deal with somebody else, according to some reports. So is he two-timing us? What's going on? Why does Trump want those mineral rights? Well, he wants America paid back, number one. but is he adding to the hard assets column? Is this what the talk of adding Greenland or Canada to us? Is this again just negotiation? Let's go for the big the big
Right,
whole
the big
apple
bite.
pie, and then we'll just get the piece we really are after. You go, we're gonna take the whole thing and get them to negotiate to a smaller part. I don't know what he's doing, but you've got a lot of assets in Canada. You got hydro, electricity, and all kinds of minerals there. And then you look at Greenland. You look at what he's talking about with Ukraine. Is he again coming at this from the hard asset standpoint to put on a balance sheet to back up an economic system? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, Brandon, it's not lost on me that on Monday, President Trump met with Bibi Netanyahu, and he gave him an inscribed copy of The Art of the Deal. So that's one of the things that he kind of gave Bibi as a goodbye gift. They're obviously very close, those two. I would be very nervous if I were an Iranian mullah right about now, but that's another show for another time.
Let me just interrupt real there. Remember, what is Trump saying? And now again, he goes big, and then he comes back and negotiates what he's really wanting. But he has said, we're going to own Gaza.
Yeah,
we're going to own Gaza and build out Gaza. And he even said, we're not going to use government money to do it. We'll go get private money to do this thing. Does he know something about what's under Gaza? Is this an ability to tap in to natural gas, which we know Israel has a ton of natural gas? And do they have a lot of oil? So is President Trump, and by the way, most people don't know about the idea of a Ben Gurion port. And the Ben Gurion port would cut right through the Gaza. Okay?
Gaza Strip.
So is Trump thinking we'll help build this and have a Panama Canal that we make money on? In other words, this guy is looking at, and he wants to get back to Panama Canal. Secretary
Hegseth
was just down there. Thank you.
Yep.
Just down there giving a speech. It seems as though they want that back, which we should have. And is that going to be, again, revenue? We go over to the port of Ben Gurion port in Israel cutting through Gaza. Will we be a part of that? Will we own that? Will we have a stake in that revenue? We get into Gaza, and now we're building, but are we going to build, something to tap into the natural gas as well? Oil? Is that part of the deal? Is he negotiating with Benjamin saying, look, we're giving you all kinds of things you need for that Iron Dome. But if you run out of, the necessary rockets, missiles to put in that thing to knock down those incoming missiles, you're toast. If we have our ships sitting offshore helping you knock those things down when you have multiple attacks coming from multiple fronts, great. But in return, we want this, this, and this. And has he not told us the reason he's so excited about Gaza is because of oil and natural gas and cutting deals with hard assets, again, to put on our balance sheet? I'm just asking questions. And these are things I would love to ask President Trump.
Well, they're very good questions. And I'll tell you, regarding Gaza and saying we own the Gazan Strip, I would wager that's another one of the we're going to lay the heaviest tariff on you that you could possibly imagine kind of in other words, he's negotiating from a position of strength. And when he says we're going to own Gaza, well, there's going to be a lot of folks in the Middle East. I would no doubt include Jordan, probably Saudi Arabia, quite a few others, maybe even the UAE, whoever. I mean, the United Arab Emirates, that are going to be saying publicly that does not work for us, but privately I've heard anyway that some of them are saying we can all go in on this together and make this doable. So is this just another negotiating ploy? Because Trump is really just kind of throwing it all against the wall this time around. I guess he figures he can't run again. Might as well just shake it up. But good God, what he's done today.
What do we have to lose? I mean, we have banks that are holding derivatives. I think we got one bank holding derivatives greater than the global GDP, for Pete's sake. So, I mean, what do we have to lose? What do we have? Certainly, or I'm being a little facetious there, but certainly some of these banks are holding derivatives equal to the 1 year's GDP for sure. What are we going to do with these banks that have not been doing accurate accounting? They've been doing, funny books. If you
Yeah.
and I kept our company books and filed our taxes the way these banks do, I think we'd be in big trouble. But if you stop with the foolishness accounting and you really put these derivatives on their books, a lot of these banks are upside down already. But then you add in the commercial real estate that's collapsing. And again, what are you going to do here? So a lot of these banks are in trouble already. We have
Yep.
fractional reserve banking. We know what that has done to our country. They're creating money out of thin air, borrowing it from the Fed, which again, really the tax is on us. And this is the stupidity of it, that they tax us, but we cannot write off the tax of the hidden tax of inflation. Every American should be allowed to write off the hidden tax of inflation on their taxes because it is a tax.
Yeah,
And
it
I'm
is.
not the one doing it, okay? But I should be able to take that off on my taxes. And frankly, I think what President Trump should do right now, I think what he should do is announce that there's going to be a 1 year of no taxes for the American people. None.
Wow.
1 year. If the
Wow.
government can waste the trillions that it has wasted through Doge, and we found it now,
Yep.
then the American people clearly deserve a refund.
Well, you know,
We
so,
have inflated away their currency and made them pay excessive taxes through an inflation. So therefore, we are going to not require you to file taxes for 1 year. Go and invest it in your business, your startup, expand your companies, and let's get this. Go out and buy a new car, and if you can do that with cash, do that or finance it, I guess. But I would encourage everybody to go buy them with cash, and just get the economy roaring. But mostly encourage businesses to expand their companies. Use that capital. I know the corporations, the tax a lot of times comes back on the personal business owner and on his personal taxes, but that doesn't mean that personal money, personal tax they're paying, couldn't be used by that small business owner to make a loan of that money back to his own corporation on
Yeah.
the corporate books, right?
Yeah, exactly right. I think it's a great idea. But yeah, one thing you mentioned Doge, and I just kind of want to touch on this. They've been hitting around Elon and President Trump, even Caroline Levitt has kind of touched on the fact that something big is coming from Doge. They've discovered something massive. And apparently we're going to all find out what that is on Friday. I mean, have you heard about this? Because I heard about him talking about it again today, saying, yeah, you'll find out soon enough, but it's big. So if Doge did find some master, and I'm sure they have, but because there's been all kinds of shady business going down with USAID and every other government entity. God, it's a shame that Doge can't investigate some of these big banks. But that said, what do you think is looming on the horizon from Doge?
Well, I would hope that they have literally documented, not billions, but they have documented trillions in fraud. And that they can now start holding people responsible. And I'm not talking just criminally, but they need to go for clawback.
Yeah.
Anybody, that's an attorney, certainly in the corporate world, knows what clawback is. And they need to go for clawback. And I'll tell you right now, start with the U.S. Catholic bishops and the Catholic charities of the U.S. Catholic bishops. Because the largest property owner in the world is the Catholic Church. In fact, their wealth is so large, it is said by some you couldn't calculate their wealth if you wanted to. So I would say start clawback with the Catholic bishops, and if that means we have to take some of their buildings, then do it. And that same thing goes with the Lutherans. And that goes with any of these other organizations tied back to these church denominations that have been on the public dole of the government for refugee resettlement, which is really simply, in my opinion, being paid for trafficking people over here, bringing them here.
Well, there's certainly no doubt that there's a lot of NGOs, and absolutely, including the Catholic Church,
and
that
I would go
been
after
doing
the
that.
UN, and I would kick the UN out of the U.S.
I would
them
shutter the UN tomorrow if I could.
100%. Stop
Yeah.
giving them money, make them leave the country, be done with it, because they also have been involved in this. We know that from Michael Yon, from Todd Bensman, and all the guys we interview. These groups, there needs to be clawback. I don't know how much the UN has in its banks, but I would total up what they have done in fraud, and I would seize the bank accounts of the United Nations. I would start seizing the bank accounts of some of these Catholic charities and other groups for clawback.
Yeah, well, I mean, and could you imagine what that? My fear, though, Brandon, I hear you, and it sounds like you're speaking from a perspective of righteous indignation and anger at the UN. I don't blame you. I feel the same way. But at what point is it too much? Because Trump has taken on a lot, and by God, today it's paying off. But if you start saying, okay, now we're shuttering the UN, as much as we'd all love that, I don't know that it's feasible in this political environment. Do you think that it would be wise politically?
Well, I do know that Michael Yon agreed, and I agree. Michael
Well, you
Yon,
mentioned Todd Bensman. We've had him on before, and yeah, he's kind of in your camp as well.
Well, Michael Yon has said publicly over and over, if you do not shut down the UN, you're not serious about fixing the problem.
Well, I mean, just I forget who the chair of the UN Council for Fairness to Women is, but it's probably like Afghanistan or something.
Well, I think we have some. Yeah, I'm going to say
Saudi Arabia,
Muslim nation.
Well, I beg your pardon?
It is a Muslim nation.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia, Annie just told me. So Saudi Arabia is there. Don't let their women drive. I mean, it's just, the UN is just an absolute
But the UN was giving cards down there on the border. We have the pictures where they were giving the refugees cards to live on to come into the U.S. They had the way stations down there with the UN, the Department of Homeland Security, giving them way stations along the way to shower, sleep, pack up more in their backpacks, and come on. They've been funneling this, the UN. The UN needs to pay America back for what they have done to our country, what they've done to New York City, what they've done to all these groups. And they've, I'm sure, got a lot of money sitting in the bank. And we need to seize it, and then we need to boot them out. I mean, if you wanted to get serious about stopping a criminal organization, I think it's the United Nations, right? And they're at the root of so much of our problem. And that's why Michael Yon's saying, if you want to really address these issues, you got to get it to the root. That's largely the UN. But whether it's the UN, clawback, we have these buildings they're going after now. I just watched a video a few weeks ago by Carrie Lake talking about a building that the Voice of America has some kind of 10-year contract on that they don't need, with conference room after conference room after conference room.
It's empty.
And we're talking about an astronomical amount of money over the next 10 years. Who's buying these buildings? What hedge fund? I'm just asking questions. What hedge fund, if any, buys these buildings, sits on them, knowing they're going to get a contract from the federal government for the next 10 years, right? I mean, this has got to be a system where you're finding people it's pay for play, and they're getting in there and they're getting rewarded with business deals and contracts when they put their people in power and fund their candidates. You know, if the complete corruption and rot was taken out, we would not need federal income tax.
Well, there you go. I mean, and you know what? But what you're kind of driving at there, Brandon, may be what's in these Doge documents.
That's what I hope.
Find out about. Because you're right. Commercial real estate is in the toilet all around the country because a lot of people just aren't going back to work. This work from home thing is really taking off. So
we have over 7 million men. Over 7 million men missing from the workforce by choice.
I'm wondering if some of these deals that President Trump is negotiating, I know you don't have much time, we got to wrap it up, but it sounds like there is going to be a lot of money pouring back into the country, and therefore jobs will follow, and the ancillary jobs that go with it. If you're going to build a big steel plant, you're going to need some restaurants around there. You're going to need maybe infrastructure built up. You're going to need more mining facilities. Who knows? But what do you think, as far as your outlook goes, before we let you go, Brandon, on a scale A through F, how do you rate Trump's first 100 days in office thus far?
99%.
There you go. Brannon Howse, thank you so much.
Nobody can be 100%, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, I don't disagree. Well, there you go. Brannon Howse, thank you so much for joining us. It was a real honor to have you today, sir. I certainly hope we can have you back and you'll join us again because it's a thrill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
All right, Brandon, you take care. Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, there he goes. That's Brannon Howse. You're watching The Right Hook. I am Steve Hook. We'll be right back after this.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupted this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our spring percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Well, hello everybody. It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. Finish this painting, but I'm sure, for at least I hope, I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
Well, there you go. That is the wonderful Annie Cyrus. That is her website, and to sell her art. Not only is she a brilliant producer, as you can see on this show, but she's also quite the artist. She works in various mediums, everything from resins to you saw the glass work there. She does paintings, and it's all one-of-a-kind stuff. Go check out her website, lutfstudio.com. That's Live Up to Freedom. That's how you can remember that, lutfstudio.com, and get a one-of-a-kind piece of art. Get several of them, gift them out, and take advantage of the savings by using the promo code RightHook. So there you are. And of course, we also want to thank Mike Lindell with MyPillow. He's got some great deals going on, including those 2 free standard MyPillows with an order of $100 or more. You can't beat that. Just go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code HOOK. You can also call 800-749-7098. 800-749-7098. Use the promo code HOOK on either mystore.com or mypillow.com. Okay, we're back. I want to thank Brannon Howse. We went very long in that first segment because we had him for a limited time, and I wanted to spend as much time with him as I could. So very interesting day today, man. It started out different than it's winding up. Markets are still open now, but they'll be closing soon enough, and they're going to be closing way, way up. As I mentioned to Brannon before, this is the single largest day on Wall Street for 5 years. Who was president 5 years ago? Oh, that's right. It was Trump. So the art of the deal, indeed. He knows what he's doing, and all those naysayers out there. And, here's the funny thing. I knew when I saw the market starting to really kick into overdrive that I said they're going to fall on some kind of sour grapes. And the sour grapes are these. Well, he's only doing it because the market was cratering. He was forced to do it. Well, that would be well and fine to make that argument, except for this. There are now 75 countries ready to come to the United States and completely renegotiate these decades-old trade deals that have been in place that have really screwed the American worker, screwed the American taxpayer. And now all of those countries are coming back. They're going to renegotiate, and everybody's going to come out a winner, except for China. China is completely screwed. President Xi did not think Trump would pull the trigger. He did. And now he's raised it, and he said, okay, now we're going to raise it to 150 or 125, maybe 150 by the end of the day at the rate things are going. But right now it sits at 125. 12 hours ago, the tariff deal with China was 104. So he bumped it up to 125 this morning while lowering it to 10% across the board for everybody else. And the market has responded accordingly. when we were speaking to Brandon, I mentioned Scott Bessent, and Scott Bessent is, I'm telling you, this guy's really good. He's sharp as a tack when it comes to economics, obviously. Trump is really, we've talked about on the program many times before that Trump has really surrounded himself with a very good cabinet this time around. His critics would differ with that, but results speak for themselves. I want to play a Scott Bessent clip from yesterday. And again, now knowing what we know, what happened today, this is a very, very strong clip. This is Scott Bessent. What's he's talking about China and how they've kind of screwed the pooch on this. Andy, let's go to cut 4, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
I think you are going to see some very large countries with large trade deficits come forward very quickly. I think we can, if they come to the table with solid proposals, I think we can end up with some good deals. And, part of the calculus on that may be that some part of the tariffs stay on. And I actually think, as I said, that over the weekend, President Trump has maximum negotiating leverage right here, right now. And I think it would be a mistake for anyone to think otherwise. And as I said, many of our trading partners, they have queued up and they have kept their cool. They have not escalated, and they will get priority in the queue. I think it was a big mistake, this Chinese escalation, because they're playing with a pair of twos. Traditionally, if you look at the history of the trade negotiations, we are the deficit country. So what do we lose by the Chinese raising tariffs on us? We export 1/5 to them of what they export to us. So that is a losing hand for them.
Well, there you go. And I love the way that Trump, and this goes back to the Zelensky debacle in the White House, where Zelensky kind of blew up the deal that I was talking about with Brannon, the minerals deal, when Trump basically looked at him and said, "You don't have the cards." There's always a poker analogy here, and that's because Trump is a deal maker. That's what he does. He negotiates for a living. That's how he made his fortune, and he's proving it on the world stage today. And what Bessent said there is pretty brilliant. He says they're playing with a pair of twos. They've got nothing, in other words. And we export 1/5 to China what they export to us. So if they jack up our tariffs on us, they're cutting their own throat. And if we jack up our tariffs on them, it cuts their throat too. So they're in a lose-lose situation, completely boxed in or boxed out, depending upon how you look at it. Put it this way, folks. Countries are not flocking to China to build brand new steel mills. They're not flocking to China to build things. Where are they coming? They're coming to the United States, and that's all due to this pressure that President Trump is. But whenever you argue from a position of strength, and Trump knows this more than anyone, good things tend to follow, and that's exactly what's happening. So whenever you hear the critics say Trump caved because of the markets were cratering, that's not true. He used it as a negotiating tool, and it worked. 75 countries are already on the docket to come to the White House and to meet with the president and Scott Bessent and renegotiate their trade policy. I'd say that's a win. You'll also recall about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, President Trump on Truth Social made the point. The first ones in are going to be very, very rich. The last ones in, not so much. I'm paraphrasing, but that's effectively what he said. So he was kind of showing his hand a little bit even back then, saying it might be a good time. You heard Brannon Howse say in the first segment, well, Trump went on Truth Social this morning and said it'd be a good time to buy. Again, showing his hand. We're going to pull some triggers here. It's just been a thing to watch. And I'm telling you right now, what happened today will be taught in school for a long time to come. It is an absolute international economic masterstroke what he did. And I don't give a damn how they want to spin it. It was all cooked up by Trump, Scott Bessent, Elon Musk was probably involved. Yes. Peter Navarro, all of them have really gotten together and figured this out. And Trump, like I said, he can't run again. So he's like, you know what? Screw it. Let's do it. Let's shake up the whole world economics for a couple of days, get them to know I'm serious, and then we'll renegotiate. And that's exactly what's happening. And now all of those losses for the last few days have been regained today, and they will no doubt continue tomorrow. Meanwhile, you've got Mr. Wonderful. I want to play this clip. I think we've got time. Cut 5, Annie, get that lined up. We've got Mr. Wonderful, Dennis O'Leary. He was on CNN the other day, and I think it was yesterday, in fact, may have been the day before, and he was talking about what he thinks should happen to China. And this is a guy, he's an international businessman. Obviously, he's a star of Shark Tank as well, but he's worth a lot of money, and he does millions and billions of businesses and deals around the world. And here's what he had to say about China. Cut 5, go.
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that look like?
I want Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Well,
I'm
hold
not
on
talking
a
about
second,
tariffs
Kevin.
on
Well,
60.
I hear you, but hold on. If we're talking about people, the average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe, can they withstand the pressure of that sort of tax on the goods?
It's short-lived. There will be
but what's your timeline compared to, you don't know the average American's timeline, what they can actually survive. There's people right now who can't survive
400% tomorrow morning, cheese on an airplane to what?
Okay, enough. Here's the thing, folks. What he's saying there is absolutely right. Now, here's the thing I noticed about that clip, and I didn't even notice it when I had pulled that clip. What did you see the little box in the corner there? Tariffs go to 104% in 53 minutes and 48 seconds, 47, 46. CNN was counting it down. Oh my God, the whole economy is going to collapse in less than an hour as these 104% tariffs go into place on China. What happens this morning? This morning, tariffs are cut across the board except China, and they're raised to 125%, not the 400% that Mr. Wonderful is advocating for, but still putting China and Xi in particular in a very, very tight box. I'm telling you, even the folks that hate Trump have got to admire the testicular fortitude of this guy to stand up to President Xi and say, guess what? We don't care. Because the bottom line is, China needs the U.S. way more than we need China. Things are going to go up. Oh, okay, so your Temu ripped off Bluetooth speaker is going to cost $7 as opposed to $5 or whatever. I mean, this is how China, and you heard Dennis O'Leary say, I do business with China. They rip people off. When you set up a factory in China, you got to tell them how your stuff is made. They get all the intellectual property. Oh, it'll be fine right here. And then they rip us off. They've got fighter jets that are based on our F-22 Raptor. Okay. So this is what China has always done. Trump has finally had enough and stood up and said, that's not going to play anymore. We'll see how see how it works out. But as far as the U.S. economy right now, it is growing, and it's growing fast. And by the way, that will have a trickle effect into Europe, into Southeast Asia, Taiwan, Korea, even the African continent. Australia will probably come around. So you're seeing a whole bunch of countries that are ready to come back to the negotiating table, except China. So at some point, China is going to have to capitulate, or they will go back into total isolationism like they were in the 60s. And we won't, we'll just have to see how it plays out. But I just admire it. I've got one more clip. Well, maybe two. It depends if I can squeeze them both in. But we always talk about CNN, and we always talk about the two folks that we like. Scott Jennings is one of them, and Harry Enton is another. Everybody was freaking out just not even 12 hours ago when the markets were kind of crapping the bed. Understood why. So CNN brings on Harry Enton, and they say, well, why don't you tell us, how is this affecting Trump's popularity? And Harry Enton of CNN did not disappoint. Cut to go.
Americans split on President Trump's policies for sure, but what about how he is redefining the presidency kind of writ large? Harry Enton decided that is what he wanted to look at this morning, and so he did just that. So the question is, how do you define redefining as part of it? And one of the ways that you're looking at it is in terms of action he's taking.
Yeah, exactly right. I think there was this concern among some folks that Donald Trump would come in for a second term and kind of be a lame duck. He ain't no lame duck. If anything, he's a soaring eagle. What am I talking about here? Let's talk about Trump executive orders in 2025. He's already signed 111 so far. That is the most at this point in a presidency in at least 100 years. In fact, it's the most in any single year, and we're only in April, since Harry S. Truman in the early 1950s. The bottom line is, whether you like Trump or you don't like him, you can't say that he's come in and not try to deliver on what he at least believes was his promises on the campaign trail, and he's doing so in historic fashion.
How are people reacting to?
All right, we could go. That clip goes on, but I don't have enough time left in the show. But I love Harry Enton. He's soaring like an eagle, and you can just see all the producers and all the backbenchers at CNN just going, "Oh, geez, Harry. Oh, geez. Wonder what they're going to say today after today's market explosion." Annie, do I have time to play the final clip just so we can end this show on a laugh? Okay, let's play the final clip. This is rising Democrat star Jasmine Crockett on why we need immigrants in the U.S. It seems kind of off the subject, but it's too funny not to share. Cut one.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation. I know that's right.
Uh-huh. So we're done picking cotton. Let the immigrants do it. That's essentially what Jasmine Crockett is saying there. And she's a rising star. Anyway, today, what a day it's been today. I want to thank you for joining us. We remind you every Wednesday and Friday, we have our fun here on The Right Hook. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget our website for Ex America News, examericanews.com. Not only do you get The Right Hook on there, but you also get all of the other wonderful shows, including The Insurrection. You've got you've got just our entire lineup is brilliant. So you're going to love them. Millstone Report. I could go on, but I don't want to miss any, so I'll stop it there. But go check that out. And, of course, remember to follow me on Twitter at RightHook1776. Anyway, until Friday, I want to thank you for joining us today on The Right Hook. Goodbye.